What are you doing on the floor, Johannes?
I'm supposed to be showing a teaser for 2.0, but we don't have a teaser for 2.0.
Yes, we do. You should know this. You work in marketing, for crying out loud.
Are you saying that I made a teaser for 2.0?
No, and we already did this joke. It feels like you're just writing these scripts on the fly at the very last second.
Can I see the teaser?
Of course.
Wow!
Wow!
What a teaser! What an acting performance!
What do you mean acting?
Let's just see the reactions coming in, because I know they're a little delayed from what we see here in the chat, but it looks like they're seeing the teaser now, more or less. So yeah, there was a little snippet of a trailer. There's a much longer trailer.
More to come.
In the same style, a cinematic trailer, but that was a little snippet of it. Today, I am joined by a man who I, on the Discord, often refer to as Mr. Trailmakers. Because while what the game is today can be credited to a lot of people, you're one of the few people who have been there since Trailmakers was just a doodle on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Since the very beginning. And that's some of the knowledge that we're going to use today. Is to dive down in the history of Trailmakers a little bit.
Yeah.
Also to sort of be able to explain why we're doing what we're doing now, because as some people probably have figured out, we're doing a campaign, a big campaign, a lot bigger than Airborne, and this is going to act as sort of the last, what can you say, suspense building dev diary before next week, where we start jumping into gameplay and stuff. But that doesn't mean that today's not exciting, because you've prepared a bunch of stuff that we are going to take a look at. I have it right here. It's called Dev Diary 3 Leaks, which is on this desktop somewhere. There it is. I just can't read. Okay. So what are we doing, Lasse?
Yeah, when you first started talking about this, I thought it would be a good time for us to just look back at all the attempts at making campaigns and other things in Trailmakers, and also go back to the very beginning of things. So we put together a little video, and I think we can just watch that and talk over it.
Put it on in the background here.
And then we can, after that, start talking about what's going on with the new campaign. We just keep clicking it until it appears in multiple versions.
VLC is a little bit cursed. There we go.
Yeah, look at this.
So what are we looking at here?
So this is actually one of the reason why the Trailmaker guy has this jetpack in the way he does is actually because we used the same animation for another game. It was the third game in a series about Max.
Yeah.
So this platform game back in Press Play.
That's a nice touch that you brought the Press Play mug.
Yeah, isn't it?
Just to show how old school this guy is.
So the four of us who founded Flashbulb came from a company called Press Play.
Yeah.
And we brought some really, really talented developers with us. But before our time at Press Play stopped, we were working on a game called Max. I don't even remember. It was Max 3, the third game in the series. And for that, we actually made some of these animations. And when we started making Trailmakers, we just took the same animations and used them again.
I mean, it works.
It works.
It works.
Yes.
Why fix it if it works?
So that's actually the story behind why the Trailmaker guy is pointing down like that, because we had already made it for another game.
Yeah.
Way back in 2014. So yeah, that's just a fun little anecdote, and I think there are actually still models of Max in the game project somewhere. And then
the workshop.
This is actually the start of Trailmakers. This is the first stab at something that would later become Trailmakers.
I hope everyone can see the timestamps up here in the corner. We're back in 2015.
We are in February 2015.
Yeah, around the time where our current player base was born.
Exactly. So we started toying around with this idea of making a block-based building game, and it was something that we had for so many years been actually making little games that were revolving around physics. Also, the Max games were also about physics, and we wanted to make this ultimate vehicle building game. So we made this as part of a competition inside Microsoft, where players could vote for what game they wanted. At that time, we were a Microsoft studio, and they could vote for which game we should make.
Yeah.
And one of them was this one. Another one would later become Deep Rock Galactic. So it's a pretty fun story that those Trailmakers and Deep Rock were basically born more or less at the same day.
In an alternative universe, Trailmakers and Deep Rock would have been the same studio.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. So we did this. This is a one-pager where you can see all the initial ideas we had for this, and we called it the workshop, and it was like, it looked a bit wonky. But this is actually where it all started. If you play the video, we can see how it quickly evolved into something a little bit more tangible.
I think
you need to press play again.
Press play. There it is again.
So here you can actually start seeing some of the foundation for what later became Trailmakers. These physics vehicles, jet engines, all kinds of things, and especially something that comes up a bit like this is our attempt at making a mech, and we couldn't, so we just strapped some balloons to it. So that was the only way we could make the mechs walk back then. But it works. And this is just funny that the transform feature was actually born back in 2015.
Yeah,
we were so focused on that, and this is actually Vilas's prototype for the physics synchronization, or what later became our own physics layer, a network layer.
All right.
You can see how the server and the client are a bit delayed, so the shape of the colliders there is like a bit offset. It's still same principle we are using today.
That's so cool. I have a hard time understanding exactly what all of this means.
So the green stuff is the collision, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And the not all the rest is what you actually see in the game.
Okay. Right. And this is still press play days. So
this is still press play. This is prototyping, seeing how could we solve the whole idea of making it multiplayer, because that was something that we saw that games like Besiege, for example, were missing. There was no multiplayer functionality, so we wanted to add that and make sure that it was multiplayer from the get-go, and that was a very crucial point in making Trailmakers.
Okay.
And then it turned into Project Karoo, and the reason why it actually started, as you saw earlier, the first name it got was Pioneers.
I really have to move this webcam around a lot and keep covering up the important stuff.
So it was called Pioneers to begin with, but then Microsoft had a rule that when you were working on prototypes, you had to give it a location name. It had to be a place, so it couldn't be copyright. It couldn't be infringement. And you still had a project name, and it had to change at some point.
Right.
So we chose the desert in South Africa called Karoo.
Okay.
For that, because it was like very desert-based, the gameplay.
Okay.
And this is just one of the images made in the beginning. This is a very young me.
Wow. Who's that handsome fella? That's you 10 years younger.
That's exactly me 10 years younger.
Yeah?
Yep.
And you were talking about here, what you're talking about the game, or what? Because there's no, just to tell the viewers as well, there's no sound on this video.
No.
Because I've seen a few people say we can't hear.
No.
There is no sound.
We're talking.
We're just talking over it.
Dev comments.
Do you remember? It's a long time ago. Do you remember what you're talking about in this video?
I just presented the project. This was the video people were supposed to see, and then give it a lot of votes so we could actually put it into production.
Yeah.
It didn't win. Surprise. But
it didn't win.
Anyway, it became a reality anyway. So this was like a CGI part of it. We made to sort of make the vision clear and the dream come come across.
Yeah.
This is like the multiplayer part where the two players actually do this. And back then this hadn't been done before.
No.
Nobody had done this physics-based building game where you could play multiplayer and actually collide with each other.
I'm a little bit curious about something you said before. Do you know who won the vote?
Yes.
Is it a game we know?
No. We made all three prototypes.
Oh, you made all three prototypes.
So we had a project called Project Knoxville.
Oh, yes.
It won the vote by a landslide.
Okay.
And it was about backstabbing your friends.
Nice. So it's the first real Among Us here.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. It was about you were like a handful of players in a world, and then you had fewer tickets to leave the world than there were players, and then you had to cooperate to get to the tickets, but you had to also backstab somebody to get out.
That's nice. We still have a Project Knoxville poster somewhere in the office, actually. I should have brought that.
It was great fun, but sometimes it also caused a lot of issues. And here's the transform feature again.
That looks sick.
Yeah.
That was really nice. This is a good trailer, actually.
It's been with us all along.
Very old trailer, but very cool looking. Oh, that's an early Trailmaker right here.
An early Trailmaker, yeah. We could do like a legacy skin for that.
I didn't know that the Trailmaker could have an even less expressionless face.
There you go.
But you managed. Impressive. Okay. Nice. That's Project Karoo right there.
Yeah, that's Project Karoo. Then this is actually Flashbulb.
This is 2016.
Early 2016, Microsoft closed down Press Play and were super kind to us and let us keep some of the work we'd been working on. So we just took off immediately, kept working on the game that was closest to the four founders' heart. So we felt that this was the game that we needed to make. And early 2016, we started working on this. This is the first prototype we did. And back then you had to like run, when you found the blocks, they were in the world. So you run up to the block and it became like part of it. It was just hanging over your head. And if you crashed, you'd had to pick it up again and walk back to the build zone and put it back on the car.
Very hardcore mode.
It sounds intriguing, but it was super, super, super punishing.
Yeah.
And this is also just a prototype where I think they were just fooling around with the physics and the springs and stuff. But you can tell that the seat almost kept some of those markings and stuff. So it's this.
Yeah, it looks like the armored seat a little bit.
But it is actually the standard seat, I think.
Nice.
Blocks still, like now we have the square knobs and stuff like that. And then we started doing some, you can see the square knobs.
The old
yeah.
You know a touch I really like, I've noticed that before when looking at this photo footage, I like how the builder is a ruler.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Yeah.
If it wasn't because we just made a new UI, I'd say
just go back to that.
I'd say let's go back to the ruler. That rules.
Yeah.
And the block that orients themselves as you turn the camera.
Yeah, we had that for a long time, but then, it turned out to cause other issues.
Okay.
Let's go forward a bit. So then we created some new artwork, and this is actually the first attempt of doing some lore around Trailmakers. So this is like a story saying that there was like famine in the world, and then the Trailmakers went out in the universe to try and to help people. And that's actually something we are holding on to even to this day. So going out and helping people.
There's a lot of cool concept art here. But yeah, the Trailmaker, the story behind the Trailmakers is maybe something that has been lacking for some time. But that's also kind of what we're addressing in 2.0 without saying too much.
Yeah.
And that's also why we're talking about it now, right?
Yes.
Is that you've always had this character, but who's a Trailmaker, but it's always been like, is a Trailmaker, is it like the police, or is it like is it like an engineer league, or is it a club, or is it a cult, or what is it?
We're gonna solve that with this one.
Yeah.
To say it.
There's gonna be story. There's gonna be lore.
Yeah.
Much of it revealed in the full cinematic trailer, which will be revealed at another time.
Yeah.
So get excited for that. Some more art here.
We can actually, if you want to show I sent you an email earlier.
Yes.
We could probably show that right now, because this is when that happened. Here. This is because Trailmakers was actually part of the Steam Greenlight program, where you couldn't just put games on Steam back then. You had to get greenlit, which means you put your game up, you paid, I think, $100, and then you'd have to wait for people to vote for your game to be accepted onto Steam. And we went through that process and got through. But we also had to change the name.
Yeah, I was about to say, what we need some backstory. Remember the last email when we blamed Ubisoft for stealing the Pioneer's name?
Yeah, so Ubisoft made an update, I think, for I don't even remember what it was, but they did something for called it Pioneers, and we were like, damn, that's kind of coinciding with us calling the game Pioneers. And there was also a game out on Steam called Pioneers, which meant we couldn't call it Pioneers.
No.
So we came up with a...
What's the first one here? No Man's Desert. That's a pretty good one.
That's a very good one. But as you can probably tell, this is kind of a fake. It was kind of a shout out to the earlier process of voting for games, and we came up with Trailmakers.
Dawn of the Planet of the Cars could have also just been... That has Game of the Year written all... You can hear Jeff Keighley say, and the winner is Dawn of the Planet of the Cars.
Yeah. Exactly.
But Trailmakers won. It's a fake vote here, but that's the...
Yeah.
And how did you settle on Trailmakers, actually?
So we wanted it to be clear that it was a construction game.
Yeah.
We also, from the get-go, had this notion that we were doing things differently than other building games because we had speed. We had lots of... We really wanted to let people build something that could move fast. So we put the trail in to say that you're making trails, whether you're driving on the ground or flying through the skies. You leave a mark, and then the makers follows that. And it's kind of also a pun on the Trailblazer, which is a front runner type person. So it kind of felt, and it was unique without being, because a lot of people mispronounce Trailmakers as Trailblazers because it feels the same, and that's good. So that's how we came up with it.
And it's also a synonym for pioneer, right? A Trailmaker and a pioneer is essentially the same thing.
That it is.
A few people are pointing out that 102% of people voted. I don't know who did the math on this.
That was Emil, our community manager and marketing manager. Yeah, he never was good at calculating.
That's why he's not here anymore at that era. And then this one was a follow-up, I think, or is it sort of related?
Oh, that's probably what the Watch Dogs Pioneer. Yeah, probably. Yeah. That's probably why.
Ubisoft teaser in Watch Dogs 2 is for real game codename Pioneer. So that was the reason you couldn't do Pioneers. Was this? Yeah. Well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We have more. I think this is just. Oh,
whoopsie.
I am.
So this, Then we went into. We started putting the game out, and I think the next one is actually the Greenlight trailer, which is what people. The only thing you couldn't play the game when you were voting for games on Greenlight.
No,
you just saw some video and said, "Would I want to buy this?" Maybe. So this is the video we made for that, and here you can see there's a lot of things that started, like the characters are there, and a lot of the blocks actually start looking like the Maker tool, and all those things start looking like something you can recognize, even these spoilers and stuff like that. So a lot of these blocks are still in the game and based on the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's 2017, and that's also when we released the first. That's the year before we released the first version of the game to the public.
When did early access come out?
That's 18.
That's 18.
I think it's just shortly after this. So this is what we made people excited about.
I mean, there's definitely a lot has happened in Trailmakers, but you can see it's sort of always kept pretty on brand. It looks like itself, sort of.
Definitely.
But with a lot more that has happened since then. The Trailmakers logo was also...
That was changed.
Yeah, that has become a bit more Silicon Valley-fied.
Yeah, exactly.
So to speak. Yeah. It was very 90s back then. Like,
super 90s.
Let's just make it huge and a lot of detail and stuff. Okay. And then what do we have here?
Then we released the game, and it kind of flopped because we were 20-something people working on it, and we didn't make enough money. Simply, it was just not enough, and we couldn't keep people, so we actually had to let people go. And then we also felt that there was a time where we had to sort of come up with something else, because this clearly wasn't good enough. So we came up with a rally mode. And we just completely pulled out anything that had to do with campaign and just said, this is all about racing. Yeah. You can race all kinds of things, and that's what the game is going to be.
It's
all
a
about.
racing game now.
Now it's a racing game. Build race cars, race airplanes, whatever. Just race. That's it. That's the game. And then we also put it out on Xbox. They had this like early access type program, and it came out there as well with this update. And when we did that, you guys went nuts. And a lot of people complained and said, "What? This is an exploration game. This is a campaign. Where's my campaign mode?"
Yeah.
And we had to like enable the old mode on Steam and just like, "Oh, sorry, we're gonna do stuff."
Yeah.
So we learned a lot from that, and we quickly started working on this, which you'll probably all know, which is the Stranded, now called Stranded, earlier known as Stranded in Space.
Yes.
Campaign, which was completely going back to the idea of making a campaign. And that came out in 2019 along with the 1.0. So it went out of early access and games preview on Xbox and became a real game. And
it's sort of, that's 1.0 is sort of where it took off a little bit, right?
Yes.
Actually players started coming in.
Yeah. It grew, and we were working on Rubber Bandits alongside this, and Trailmakers just exploded. All by itself when this had been out for a few months. It didn't like initially explode, so it wasn't like we put it out and then we saw everybody come in. But within a few months, we could see that it was going to a completely different level.
I see people a little bit sad that we skipped over Expedition.
Yeah, but that was okay. Yeah. We showed some footage from that.
Yeah, there was some footage from that, but yeah. It's the light version of the Trailmakers history here.
Yeah, we can't dwindle on the past for too long.
We say, even though we've been doing nothing but doing exactly that.
Yeah. But we could talk for hours about these things.
We could talk for hours about these things.
And you're more than welcome to ask questions in the chat if you have anything that you want to know.
Yeah. So while this video loops, which it does, I guess we should talk a little, because I could imagine you can be sitting at home and thinking, okay, but what the hell does this have to do with 2.0?
Yes.
So, Stranded was there, and then that sort of became very popular, and that actually sort of grew the player base, and we're like, we're going to do some more. And then Airborne came along, which was sort of like, let's do an even wilder campaign. And then Airborne was a huge success. And then now we're doing something even bigger than Airborne.
Yes. That's exactly the story. And Airborne was a bit because we were trying to figure out how do we make more content for this game. Do people just want to tinkle or tinkle? Tinkle.
Just let the people tinkle.
Build stuff, or do they want to? Do they actually want something, a purpose?
Yeah.
Is it just pure sandbox, or do we need to create some content that can be give you some purpose in the game?
Yeah.
And we decided on doing a real mission setup for Airborne with enemies and all those things that you all know from that.
Yeah, because that's the thing with Stranded. That's a sort of campaign, but you're also very alone in the world. Then came Airborne, and I was like, okay, there's NPCs and there's enemies, and then 2.0 takes it even further with larger areas, missions and side missions.
Yes,
bosses.
Yeah,
is also out there.
And where Airborne was very much air focused, we're gonna try and deliver the whole package this time.
So that's going to sea, ground, and air, not space.
Not space.
We did space.
And, not underwater.
And not underwater.
But it is going to be something that's going to shape the future of Trailmakers. So there's no limit to what we could do after also. So even though when we've released 2.0, there's going to be more stuff coming along the same lines.
Yeah, it is going to be a new starting point for Trailmakers, right? Where when 2.0 comes out, that's going to be what Trailmakers is. When you load up Trailmakers for the first time, that's going to be what you're introduced with. Is the stuff we're working on now. People are not going to be thrown into Stranded anymore.
Nope.
They're going to be thrown into this, and that's going to be sort of the new personality of Trailmakers.
Yeah.
And what we can build upon later on.
Yeah.
And it is a very far in development, and it is looking really good. And from the next dev diary already, we're going to do actual gameplay. Not pre-recorded videos or screenshots. We're actually going to have the game open in 2.0, and we're going to start showing some new stuff next time.
It's going to be very, very exciting. And it's we've been working on this for a very, very long time. So it's for us to start showcasing it is also going to be really nice to be able to show what we've been spending so much time on.
Yeah, I think I know we've been working on this for a really long time. How? Because I don't know when it actually started to become what it is now, maybe, but it's over a year that...
it's almost 2 years.
It's almost 2 years, that we've had this...
Yeah, and it all came out of... so some people opening up Trailmakers feel that they hit a wall.
Yeah.
They feel it's too hard, and it's like... you have to come up with your own ideas of what you want to do. And the whole idea of being presented with a smooth way into the game has been with us for a long time. And Stranded was the first attempt at that, but it kind of takes you by the hand for 5 minutes, and then you're on your own.
Yeah.
Whereas this time we're going to be way more focused on keeping you... guiding you.
Yeah.
And it's the same we did with Airborne. It turned out to work really well.
I see someone saying, I like having the option of sandbox or campaign.
I
will just iterate that we're not taking anything away from Trailmakers.
We're not taking
We're not deleting
nope.
Danger Zone and Treasure Island and deleting a bunch of blocks.
Yeah.
Everything that you have in the game now will remain in the game. It's just that a whole lot more is going to be added.
Yeah.
So you can still play Trail. If you don't care about 2.0 at all, you can still just jump into Test Zone and build mechs.
Yeah.
You are completely free to still do that.
We would enjoy some of the new blocks. We're going to add a lot of new blocks to the game as well.
Yes, and we're going to look at them next week. In a week, we're already going to be looking at the new blocks. Yeah. Someone's saying, will there be chirpos? That's a fan favorite now. That's not, no. The chirpos have been...
they're on their own
They
planet.
have another cute counterpart now. But also way too early to start talking about those guys. Do we have any... So 2.0 isn't going to be very interesting for existing players. I would say that's a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, it will be. Of course, there will be some sort of introduction, which people who have played the game for years will have to be patient about. But there's going to be lore and history and stories put into that. So don't worry, it's going to be entertaining no matter what.
It would be kind of like saying Airborne wasn't interesting for existing players.
Yeah,
I mean,
yes,
but it's much more than that. Weapons next week. New blocks next week. So yeah, definitely not out of the question. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we have anything. Will it be a co-op campaign?
Yes.
Yes, you can co-op.
Yes.
Yes. Alone or with friends.
Yeah.
Do we have any more relevant questions here before we wrap it up?
No. I don't know.
Someone's saying we don't even need complexity increase. That's refreshing. Oh, that's usually people spam that we need to increase complexity. This guy is just completely content with the 700 limit. Yeah. Okay. Will there be some water? Yes, there'll be a lot of water. Yeah. There's also be a lot of...
It's going to be wet enough.
Yes.
Yeah. Spawner blocks.
Can you give
blocks is next week.
Yeah, and blocks next week. Can you give a hint of the scale of the map? Large.
Yeah, it's huge. Today I actually traveled across it, and it took me quite a while.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Was it a skill issue, or is it because the map is big?
Both.
You didn't use a vehicle. You just ran with your character.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is massive. We would say that.
We would say it's massive. Yeah. Yeah. More tutorials for newer players. There's a really good tutorial.
There is.
A very tried and tested tutorial.
Yeah. Yes.
In 2.0 that's going to be a whole lot better than the current tutorial in the game. So yes, it's going to be way better onboarding there. So yeah.
Stranded will still be there. If you feel that you still want to spend time in that, it's still gonna be there.
Will there be a story? Yes, there will be a story, and we still have 4 more episodes to go after this one.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to dive into. I guess that's it for the history of Trailmakers.
Yeah.
Very interesting history lesson. I hope everyone else enjoyed it too, and gets even more excited for next week, where we are showing actual gameplay and new blocks. And we're going to have you on for another Dev Diary a couple of episodes from now. But that's when we're much further into the process. And then you can be unleashed, because at that point we have talked about everything.
Then I can just blab.
Then you can just blab about everything, because that's one of the last Dev Diary streams, and we will have revealed everything by then.
It feels kind of tense to not be able to say.
Yeah, I know. Imagine being me every day. That's how it gets. Let's end with young Lasse and... not old Lasse.
Not old Lasse.
Not as young Lasse. That's a nice way to say it. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Lasse, for being here. And I'll see you again later on stream. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.